Today, business owners, watch your back. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Welcome to this post covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. Today I'm joined by Peter from Business Crew. Hi Peter.
Hi Martin, how are you? Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, good to see you back on again. And, your conversations with the business community are, well, putting a few red alerts up.
Yeah, look, actually I am. For a while now, I have been warning business owners just to be prepared for an increase in crime. And that has been happening, particularly what I would call commercial crime. That's pretty much where people from the public, criminals basically, will either break into premises, or you've got an increase in shoplifting, and that type of crime. A lot of that has been a result of economic conditions, where there's an increasing number of people who are just getting a little bit desperate for money because of economic deterioration in economic conditions. So that's something that has been that I've been discussing, in fact, since 2018. I have a business consultancy channel on YouTube, and in 2018 I created an economic series, an economic crisis ahead series, and one of those the episodes there, which was 4.2.1, which a 16-minute video, was on business owners to be very careful about an increase in crime, and that's been occurring. We've been noticing that over the past few years, but there's a couple of other issues that have come across very recently. In fact, a few days ago has been Operation Ironside, that has taken down a lot of the underworld in Australia, basically, and around the world. But that is going to increase crime as well. Not just amongst the criminal elite, but that's also going to filter down to the common man as well as the business owners. So taking those two factors into consideration, and I'll explain them in a little bit more detail, I believe that we are going to be seeing a tsunami of crime in the next few years, actually.
So why is it that businesses in particular are potentially exposed to this? I'm as interested because the ACCC published their scam report this week, and one of the things they highlighted was a significant growth in scams targeted specifically at businesses, relating, for example, to false invoices, click-through links, posted payments, all of those things. And so it seems to me the business community is very much in the crosshairs of a lot of this. Why is that?
Well, because businesses have got money. Businesses, it's a lot more difficult to trace crime when it comes to businesses, because if a criminal breaks into your property and steals something, then you will alert the police, and then the police will obviously take fingerprints and so forth. Whereas business crime isn't such a high priority for a police, so you can get away with it a lot more. That's number one. I'm not saying that the police ignore it completely. It's just less, that's just a business risk that you take. Obviously, if somebody breaks into a business, then that is going to be taken differently. But in these instances, you're talking about preparing fake invoices. You're talking about shoplifting. I mean, police aren't going to do an investigation when you say that there are some goods that have been stolen from your business. Secondly, businesses, they transact. Businesses undertake transactions. They deal with money. They sell things. So it's very difficult for a business to know whether you are a scammer, whether you are now providing your credit card to purchase something. So it's only later on that a business will find out that the money that has come out of somebody's credit card has been reversed back to them because that was a stolen credit card. So for private individuals, if someone comes up to you and says, look, can I just, can you give me $50? I'll just give you my credit card. You can take $100 out of it. You're going to think, what the hell's going, mate, scam. Whereas if I'm a customer, and if I go to your business and if I, take some things of value and present my credit card, it's not going to be a problem, is it? So businesses are an easy target in that respect.
Okay, and just on that, I guess another point is that they have these days more and more technology, right? More and more multiple channels, of course, a lot more transactions have been digital since COVID as well. And it seems to me that the digital nature of business these days is also yet another channel.
Yes, that is certainly one thing. There are more possibilities now than there were in the past. Going back to when we were younger, it's the only way that you can screw a business over, really, is to break into a business, which is obviously very risky for amateur, just little amateur criminals, or shoplift. The only way that you could, I suppose, scam a business more is if you actually transact with the business themselves. Whereas in today's environment, with the technology, with the payment by credit card, with all these different technologies, it's a lot easier. There are a lot more options to scam a business, and it's also very difficult to trace.
And one other question: to what extent is there any evidence that some of the criminal activity is actually from staff within the business? I was talking to somebody the other day. I run a business survey, and we noticed that there seem to be more people who effectively are finding that ex-employees were actually draining funds out of the business, more so than previously.
Well, that's a very easy question to answer, and that's why I have been, for the past couple of years, have been warning my business clients to pay particular attention to an increase in crime, because a lot of this really is the result of deterioration in economic conditions, and as a result, more people they're just desperate. They are finding it more difficult to pay for their bills. So normally honest individuals, normally good employees, now find that they have access to funds or have access to products or have access or have an opportunity to take advantage of this situation, and they are doing that. And that is exactly why I am saying that in the near future, your listeners, and this is another one of those, you heard it here first, that there is going to be a tsunami of crime. And there are a number of reasons why. Number one is because economic conditions will continue to deteriorate. And for some of your listeners may have remembered one of in fact, my first telecast here on your channel, which was titled "When is a silver bullet not a silver bullet?" Remember when last year everyone was talking about, or everyone was waiting for the vaccines, and I came in January saying, look, the vaccine is the only exit strategy that the government has, and as a result, I want people to be very, very careful not to exert themselves, not to overspend, not to overinvest, not to be too confident, because if this silver bullet is not a silver bullet, then they're going to get stung. And it's only now that the serious economic pain is being felt, because last year, even though there has been some economic pain felt, obviously with lockdowns and so forth, there has been a fair amount of government support. But unfortunately, a lot of naive people thought, oh, cool, vaccine, we're going to wait till February, we're going to wait till March, we're going to open up businesses, we're going to go into cafeterias, we're going to open up gyms, we're going to open up pubs, because a lot of these premises have closed down because of what happened last year. The vaccines are around, and these people have been stung. So not only have new investors who've moved into the business have been stung, so now they're desperate. You're finding that the people who were already struggling last year and were waiting for, remember how we were all waiting for the year 2020 to end? Well, it has. So what? We've got lockdowns, we've got border closures, we've got business closures, but we don't have any more government support at the moment, or it's minimal, it's been drip fed. So the economic conditions are now bad, really bad. And because you don't have that support. Now, the other thing is we've now just seen the takedown of all these criminals. And one of the consequences of this takedown is that literally tons of drugs have been seized. Now, what that means now, what the consequence of that is, not just that you have a lot of pissed off people in the underworld, but that has now created a situation where the amount of drugs flowing down to the petty thieves, to the drug addicts on the bottom, the amount of those drugs is now starting to dry up. It's a lot more difficult to get drugs for the drug addicts on the bottom, and the drugs that are now becoming available are going to be much, much more expensive, which means that there's going to be a lot of desperate druggies out there who are going to be flipping out because they don't have access to drugs, or they're going to need a lot more money now in order to be able to get their fixes. So there's going to be a lot more of this petty druggy sort of, the breaking into your car, breaking into your home, sort of hanging around, 3 o'clock in the morning down a dark street, which is a lot of these streets are now dark and empty anyway, breaking into your premises just to steal something. So there's going to be a lot of these druggy sort of desperate, I call this like desperate crime as a result of the takedown of the criminals. So you've got that, which you never had in the past. You now have the ongoing lockdowns and COVID restrictions which are affecting business, but you don't have the protection, the government protections and the government support that you had last year. You've also got deteriorating economic conditions anyway, which is also creating normal people who are struggling. So they're going to be doing things which they normally wouldn't do. And I also believe, and this is speculation, but your listeners can also keep an eye on this, the price of petrol is also rising. It's now $70 per barrel, which means that the price of petrol at the bowser is going to be increasing. That's also going to add increased costs for people who are driving around. So there's going to be, again, that's also going to squeeze them financially as well. So there are many different variables now coming into play, which is affecting a broad spectrum of people, of criminals, druggies, of honest people, of employers, of employees, which is now going to make them, or going to now, I suppose, stimulate them, or what's a better word? It's going to provide them incentives to do naughty things which they obviously would not have cared to do in the past. Basically, people are going to get desperate.
Okay, well, so I guess the last question for tonight then is, as a business owner, what are the 1 or 2 things that you should be doing? I assume that checking your insurance will be a good thing to do, but also taking a few more precautions.
Definitely. Just be a little bit more sensitive about the fact that you're going to be more targeted. So ideally, purchase a security system, security cameras. The good thing is that today, thanks to the technologies, the security systems aren't that as expensive as what they used to be. So that is something that I definitely recommend business owners to do. Invest in a security system. That's number 1. Do an audit of your premises. In other words, check how secure your door is. Is it tough? Is it strong? Look at the back. Do you have a back entrance? Perhaps consider putting up grills. Perhaps maybe put some kind of metal bar just to add an additional amount of sort of penetration proofing. Look at your windows. Is the window maybe in the toilet? Is it high enough? Maybe put bars on it. In other words, this might sound a little bit extreme, but we are going to be in extreme circumstances. So that's physical audit, camera systems. Be very careful when you're providing credit. Okay, one of the businesses that I'm involved in is a tourism business, but obviously tourism has been hit particularly hard. So I've moved into, and you can see some of the products there. I've moved into Australian gifts and in basically products, Australian themed products, souvenirs, and so forth. So now I'm a retailer. I do not provide credit. And not at this stage, particularly for new customers, I only provide credit to ongoing customers, not for new customers, because I know the chances of me being stung are going to be pretty high, because you don't know what sort of economic conditions the business is in. Remember, each person is now looking after themselves, at the moment, the environment we're in, it's every man for themselves. So they may be wanting to get as much stuff as possible, obviously, to make more sales because they're desperate. And then, that's your stuff basically, and you may or may not get paid. So be very careful when you're providing credit. In very few circumstances, when I only provide a little amount of product to a retailer on credit, say $100 worth, just to test out the market, or if there's a new product I've got, I just want to use their retail. I always ask them, I always make this clear, who is going to be responsible for products that disappear? Because that's also very important. So if you've got a shop, if you're a manufacturer or if you're a wholesaler, okay, be very careful about providing credit. If you do provide products on consignment, make it very clear who is responsible for the products that are, if they get stolen. This is now a very important factor because most of that will occur. Obviously, insurance is now very, very important. Be prepared to be insured. And also to prevent shoplifting, we've talked about the cameras, but also play what I call a game called the secret shoplifter. Test out the sensitivity of your staff in terms of their ability to spot out shoplifters. So obviously you may have to train them first, but if they are already trained, what you do, you maybe get a mate, or you can get an outside party to go into your store, make sure that you're obviously sort of around the corner or something like that, so it's known, and then ask your friend or someone from your family, or maybe the third party, ask them to pretend to be a shoplifter and get them to go in there and try to steal as much stuff as possible. So slowly they'll be going in, stealing stuff, and they're coming out where you'll be around the corner, and then they'll be passing on the stolen stuff to you. Then they'll be coming back in. So basically test out your systems. So they're pretty much the main things that I say to the different business owners that I have, mainly retailers, obviously, watch out for shoplifting, security cameras, do an audit of your premises. If you're owning a petrol station, be very, very careful. This is going to be very difficult, obviously, to stop. But there's going to be definitely going to be spike in the increase of petrol drive-aways. There's really nothing much that you can do there, but be vigilant. But just be very careful about that. Maybe get them to prepay. So there are a lot of things that you can do depending on what type of business that you've got. But definitely put this on your radar. Think about this very carefully. Take it very seriously. And you've seen it on this channel first, and you'll be seeing it on the news about carjackings, about break-ins, about all sorts of increase in crime. So do what you can to avoid being a victim, and think about your business, think about your situation, and ask yourself, where am I vulnerable?
Yeah, right. Good advice there, Peter. Well, thanks for that. And last point then, if people want to follow up and look at some of your other shows, where do they go?
They go to the Business Crew channel, BIZNEWS, Business Crew, CREW channel. I don't post very often, unfortunately, so it's always best to stay here. But when I do, it's usually something that's very, very important. And I hope I have helped you. And be very, very careful, guys. Be very careful, because it's going to be very dangerous in the near future. Because unfortunately, economic conditions and desperation is going to have consequences.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Appreciate that, and good to catch up. A very, I think, timely and important warning for people. So, folks, you heard it here first. Just check, just take some precautions, and be alert and aware. Thank you very much for your time today, Peter.
Thank you, Martin.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.